My guest this morning is a former Deputy Minister for Education. He's a Member of Parliament for Assin South, Reverend GHOne Ntim Fordjour. He's raised a lot of concerns lately, especially about the National Education Forum. He also has concerns about the constitution of the Council of State and all other issues regarding education. We have a sit with him this morning to discuss all these issues. Good morning to you, sir. How have you been?
Yeah, good morning, Lily. I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing well.
Great.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back on your show.
I know. Now, let's talk about the National Education Forum, which was opened by the President a week ago. You have had certain issues about it and even the recommendations they've made. What are these issues?
Yeah, thank you very much, and a good morning to our cherished viewers, particularly Assin South, the good people of Assin South constituency. Right at the outset, when the announcement was made that the National Education Forum was going to be constituted, I raised key concerns against it. I'm not against the principle of stakeholder consultation because from 2018 to 2024, we set aside 1 week in every November for National Education Week where stakeholders were, even broader stakeholders than what they're doing now was done. But the timing, because when you are voted for, there's a social contract. There are key specific promises that you make to the good people for which you secure 6.3 million votes. So the expectation is that you set out on the implementation of delivering on those promises, put them into the budget that is to come March 11th, and let us see that you are truly committed to the promises you kept. But then if you set your vision aside and invite a group of people to go and put together, some so-called proposals for you to consider, then it will be seen as a ploy, to renege on the promises you made and to now have whatever somebody says you should do. But again, on the National Education Forum, I also predicted that it's going to be an avenue for President Mahama to mutilate the sterling free SHS policy, the key components and elements within the free SHS that make it pro-poor, that ensure equity, that ensure that there's that increased access to everyone that has to go to school. Major part of it will be removed. And for all the key predictions I made, they are all playing out. One of the key things that I've had the opportunity to engage the coordinating committee, some members of the coordinating committee, we've debated on certain platforms, and the key proposals they are considering on the table, an agenda they are setting, one is to bring back the cutoff system. Really, once the cutoff system is brought back, we are going to have nearly 200,000 students who every year after completing BCE would not have the opportunity to continue because they would say your grade is not up to a certain grade and you cannot qualify. You're not eligible to go to SHS or
Are we
TVET.
then not questioning the quality of education?
How questionable is that as the quality at the moment? We are in the 21st century, an age where you go to China, Singapore, very advanced countries, most from primary all the way to secondary, the essential examinations they write are the diagnostic ones, just for them to know the weaknesses in the individual student, like we are doing for national standardized tests, P2, P4, P6. But for you to write a major examination, you write even at the end of secondary, just to determine which tertiary institution you have to get into. So at a time when we have to remove barriers and open access and ensure that no child is left behind, this is not a time to reintroduce a man-made barrier. Let me tell a very inspiring story.
Right.
In 2020, one of the first graduates of free SHS, their results were published, and speech and prize giving day was held at a Brigel Secondary School. At the time, Mrs. Fordjour was the headmistress of the school. There was the student who swept all the awards was this young girl who 2017 was part of the first batch of free SHS. She came from a village somewhere. For some reason, I will not indicate her name, but she came with one of the highest grades in terms of numbers, our grade over 44 or so. And so the school were almost unwilling to accept her, but for the equity component, the 30% access provided for in category A schools for less endowed communities and public schools, she was able to gain admission. Fast forward 3 years, she became the topmost and the best student on that campus. So you can imagine if NDC brings back the cutoff, they are going to be denying such brilliant students the opportunity to access education because they think they are not brilliant enough and they think they are not deserving of entry. Now, before the introduction of free SHS, we conducted a survey between 2013 and 2016. And the outturn was that due to cutoff and other similar barriers put in place, every year, between 120,000 to 150,000 students will graduate from BEC but will not have the opportunity to enter into SHS or TVET. Now, given the current population dynamics, if you are to conduct a similar survey of the number of students or people who will be denied of entrance into second cycle institutions when this cutoff and other related barriers are brought back, it can equate to about 200,000. Lily, 200,000 in 10 years is 2 million students whose future would have been shattered, who are left in the trenches, and who would never have the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to a nation building.
They'll have a chance to rewrite.
We had the same resetting system in place when NDC was in power, but data still indicates that regardless that reset opportunity and system that was in place, 120 to 150,000 students every year still were cut off from getting into secondary.
So you do not have that buy-in, but if you're invited to sit at any of the committee tables for the National Education Forum, will you honor it?
They're almost done. I was never invited, but I'm not even worried about that. The Catholic Bishop Conference was even ignored until they were up in arms before they saw the need to include them. The Catholic Bishop Conference, the Christian Council, who own about half of the schools we have, about half of the schools we have in this country, from pre-tertiary all the way to tertiary, belong to the mission schools. And so if you even found them not deserving of getting first invitation, I mean, Ntim Fordjour is not someone that should be offended that I wasn't invited. But however, we are here to support the government in every constructive way to ensure that the gains we have made is not derailed. And for that, we are there to support them to succeed. But however, the second point that is also very principal on the table that has occupied their discussion is targeting. One may say, but it is not wrong to say that those who are rich should pay for the awards and those who are poor should rather be supported. But when you interrogate further, you ask one question: what is going to be the credible or accurate mean testing criteria to separate the rich from the poor in this country? Is it by the suits we wear? Is it by appearance? Is it by the cars we drive? Or by the income that go through the banks that you can easily have data on to check? Because in this country, my aunt, who sells in a pan the tomatoes in Kotokraba market or Abablushi or Makola or Kejetia, may not have a bank account where her earnings pass through. So you might think she is not someone who has the income level that should, and for which she should be able to
what of parents coming forward to say, I can be able to pay, so I want to pay? Yes,
I'll get to that. And that is the next point. Now, somebody might dress like I've dressed and say that I'm renting. Somebody, even a cabinet minister appeared before appointment committee and said that they have been renting after being an MP for about 12 years and being a deputy minister for 8 years. And now even cabinet minister said they are renting. So the people that NDC will think that are poor may very well be the ones that those who are suited up are actually renting their home. So to be inaccurate. But however, even if they're able to find a very accurate mean testing criteria to separate the poor from the rich, now the same rich people who have contributed to taxes and paid their taxes, out of which and from the oil revenue and other sources of income, we are financing free SHS. You are saying that they should be left out and they are not deserving of enjoying free SHS. Every country that has implemented free education in the United States, Canada, in Europe, whether rich or poor, if you're going to public school, it is free, whether you're a billionaire or you're not. And if you feel that you really want an affluent school, you can take your child to really expensive private schools. But so long as your ward is in a public school, it is free for all. Our president, His Excellency, with the greatest of respect, at the time that he enjoyed free education, his dad was the Minister of State. And so if that principle that let the rich pay and let the poor, at the time, his dad was minister, but he enjoyed. Now, to your concern, which is very tenable, if parents voluntarily come out to say, I'm rich, I can afford fees for my ward. Maybe I even paid dollars for their GHS Why can't I afford to pay for the SHS? Maybe well tenable, but ask them. If the awards are placed to the kind of school I Ntim Fordjour attended in my village, Category C school, Assin South Secondary School, will they be willing to pay and send their kids there? No. They want to pay to go to Achimota. They want to pay to go to Presec. They want to pay to go to Wesley Girls and Louis Tamale Secondary School and the plush, you know, the best of the schools. And so if that is going to happen, and the intent of the NDC is to crowd out, reserve the elite schools, the Category A schools for the rich, and to crowd them out from the poor, so that the poor in this era, under the policy of free SHS, the child of the watchman in a big corporation, security guard in a big corporation, has the same chance and sits in the same class with the son or daughter of the CEO of that big corporation, and they all have equal shot at life, and they're all going to be able to comfortably and meaningfully, confidently contribute to nation building. They want to cut off that and separate poor children into very poor schools, and then a rich student into very rich schools. I say this as an example. In this country, currently as we have it, a very poor child from a poor background can have a grade 6 in Wasi, and may be desirous of pursuing medicine or law or engineering, or want to go to School of Business Administration, School of Business for administration. But they will be denied. It was, oh, we have too many applicants. We couldn't find you eligible. But another student from a rich home, having a grade 20, 22, 24, because of fee paying, if their parents are ready to pay, they will pay and they will become fee-paying medical student, law student, engineering student, and business student. And that is the kind of system, the elite system they want to bring into secondary education, and that would be dangerous for our country. In any case, should they say that, well, if you think you are poor, apply and let's support you so that you will be the ones who will benefit. It will end up having a situation where that poor space reserved for poor people, so to speak,
poor policy,
will go to NDC card-bearing members. I am a victim. You know, I grew up from a village, Assin South. Farming was all that I started with. And I'm a son of a cocoa farmer and farmed cocoa myself. When I got into SHS and needed cocoa scholarship, I never got one. I was denied. But some rich boy somewhere who has never seen cocoa tree before, they were the ones who got the CMB scholarship. We don't want that kind of inequitable system back in the country. Let's support funding for this policy. You know, a government brought it, and for 8 years, within the same modest means of the economy, we're able to finance free SHS for 8 years. You have the opportunity to finance it for just 4 years, and you're up in arms. You're running helter-skelter complaining about funding.
The state of the economy requires, additional funding. If parents can afford, because we all know that one of the critical challenges of education in Ghana is funding.
So if parents can afford, and they will be willing, that they will pay for their kids to be in Assin South Secondary School, and Kumasi Hinkro Secondary School, and Bojisango SHS, and other secondary, without being disrespectful, because that is the school I attended. If they are willing to send their kids to Category C schools, I have no qualms about it. But the reality is that no one is going to pay for their kids to be sent to those schools. They want to pay and enjoy the best. Now, again, the third principal key proposal they are considering is the introduction of TVET into Category A schools. It's not a bad idea, because after all, we're already implementing it. Lily, as we speak, we have 120 SHS, which are secondary technical schools. So within that same school, we have technical student, TVET student, and grammar student. GSTS is a typical example in Takrade. Over the years, they have raised some of the topmost engineers we have in this country. And at the same time, they have also raised humanities, very top people in humanity. Infants Pim School is just simply Infants Pim School. There's no technical name in the nomenclature, but it is a SecTech. They are one of the best technical blocks we have in the country. But all these schools are secondary technical because there is a world-class befitting retooled technical blocks and equipment and workshops that have been instituted there. And so if you want to introduce TVET into Presec, it's not going to take just the classroom. for PRESEC to start running technical courses. It will require the construction and installation of the appropriate TVET, workshops and tools. And we asked them, have you done the costing? How much is it going to cost you to be able to establish TVET workshops and tooling in all these Category A schools so that Wesley girls can do TVET, Machimota can do TVET, Prempeh can do TVET, and the likes. They haven't come up with any cost model. I did my initial cost modeling based on how we were able to retool the technical institutions during our tenure.
Right.
And for them to be able to convert Category A schools into TVET or secondary technical, they will require minimum 10 billion cedis to do that. Now, they are complaining already that a 2.5 nominal, 2.5 billion cedis, they need to be able to run free SHS every year. They have a challenge with it. So if you are complaining about 2.5 billion, cedis funding for free SHS, how are you going to be able to raise 10 billion cedis to be able to set up secondary schools into TVET, for instance? So these are some of the concerns.
Is that an indication that you're worried about the free SHS policy?
I am worried that I see clear attempts by this government under the guise of National Education Forum to mutilate the essential parts of free SHS. They are showing signs that they are going to be unable to run it. They promise, for instance, that they are going to expand free SHS to cover private schools. They are not going to be able to do it. GIS.
Why? Why do you think they will not be able to?
Already, even without the inclusion of private schools, they are struggling to find financing. And so if you're going to expand it to include private schools, how are you going to find financing for it? Now, I think it's just a matter of priority. If you truly prioritize the child of poor getting access and everyone getting access into education, you find money for it. But they promise that private schools are going to be part of free SHS. GIS is a private school, isn't it? SOS is a private school. Tama International is a private school. Christian High is an international school. We hope to see how they will involve all of them and pay for them. Lincoln is an international school. And some of these, when you ask, we would rather pay for the private schools.
And the school fees is rather on a high.
Yes. And also, we want to pay for the private schools who run WASI. But Christian High runs hybrid, Cambridge and WASI. And so, regardless, you can't escape that. We want them to be sincere. And it's not just about political promises to secure 6.3. We want to see how they implement that. They also said that they will abolish double track the moment they get into power. We hope to see how they will abolish double track. I always said, slow down. When you are in a hurry to abolish double track, there will be repercussions. Because even though we constructed over 2,500 education infrastructure for our secondary schools, dormitories, classroom blocks, dining halls, laboratories, and whatnot, we still have a lot of students coming in. We now have an average enrollment of about 1.5 million. And so for the highly subscribed schools, not all the 926 schools, but for the highly subscribed schools where everybody wants to go, if you do not have a situation where Form 3s and Form 2s will go at a time, and then when they're on vacation, Form 1s go in, and you want all three streams to be there at a time, you cannot. If you abolish double track today, all first-year students in PRESEC, for instance, will have to be sent home. And so gradually, as you're expanding infrastructure, then you phase out the double track. And you do so advisedly. I am concerned whenever parents raise concerns that, well, we are not really excited about, we are not enthused about our wards going to school for 2 months, coming home to stay for so and so months, and we feel that it could have been. I understand them. We wish that would have had an improved system. But given the situation we have, we needed to be creative. We needed to find innovative ways of ensuring everybody gets in there without compromising on contact hours. And as a matter of record, when we had a trimester system where we had 3 terms and there was no double track, the average contact hours or the contact hours for every academic year was 1,080 hours per academic year. The hours that the student would get to have teaching. Yes, And when we introduced double track, we were so innovative enough to increase contact hours.
Okay.
So you may think they're spending more days at home for vacation, but truly and on record, they are spending more hours in school and we increased it from 1,080 contact hours per academic year to 1,134 contact hours per academic year. And so every day there's an extra hour teachers teach them. And so that is the reason why we've been able to sustain, quality in education. The other point they raised, just before I even get to that, one other key promise they brought was, which maybe the youth found it exciting, was a free tertiary scholarship. The admission was going to be paid free for every tertiary student. As we speak, everyone had to borrow money or find a way to pay their fees. If they were truly committed to honor their promise, what they would have done was at the moment they won power, the chief of staff would have been, detailed to engage all tertiary institutions, their vice chancellors and principals, and through GTEC and mandated Ghana Tertiary Education Commission to liaise with all the tertiary institutions to receive their enrollment, audit it, and to ascertain the indebtedness to each of these.
They are not even formed this cabinet.
No, but the chief of staff was appointed. So if a government that truly wants to not go back on their promise, this is what they will do. They have a chief of staff. So ministers may not have been appointed yet, but it was a promise that was so important to you that once you gain admission, I don't want you to worry about payment. And inconsistent with that principle, the chief of staff will engage Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, and then they will engage all the tertiary institutions. They will submit the enrollments. They will audit it for those who have accepted to go there, and then they will be able to know, well, you have admitted 20,000 students, 10,000 students, 2,000. So these are the levels of indebtedness we have to you. We will pass our budget around March 11th. By end of March, we would have passed appropriation. So expect that we will disperse these funds to you somewhere around April, May. And they would have been excited to support the president to fulfill his promise. And all of them would have just invited the student to come in and enroll, awaiting government to reimburse them. That is commitment to fulfilling your promise.
The education minister during his vetting stated categorically that everybody who is paid will be reimbursed. Is that not assuring?
But that's not what he said. Your principle was that you don't want people to be denied, or the barrier was, well, I've got admission, but I don't have money to pay, so I cannot go. You didn't say that if they're able to go and borrow money and they enter, you reimburse. The principle or the problem you are solving is to cure the challenge for those who cannot even borrow or find money to enter. So the entry barrier was what you were curing. Right. So if you come in and say, well, find money to go and pay, anytime that I deem fit, I'll reimburse you. You have totally destroyed the promise you gave, and you've turned around completely from the promise you kept. You said you were going to keep. So we want them to just simply deliver on because the fidelity of social contract is so important. Right. Since to whom much is given, much is expected. Massive goodwill has been, afforded you, and it's just respectful that you pay sincere, commitment to fulfilling those promises, and that's all we are asking. We are not asking much. We are only urging them to stay true to their promises, and to that we will hold them to account.
You also raised concerns about the composition of the council of state, stating that there's no clergyman on the council of state. Is it important?
It is very important to the Christian community. Okay. It is extremely important to our Christian leaders. It is very important to the Christian leaders who unanimously, openly, endorsed President Mahama. We've had many elections, but this was the only election that you saw senior bishops, archbishops, reverend professors, reverend doctors, and general overseers of various denominations openly gathering to endorse the president, praying for him, and all the apostles coming to do that. And even after the election, held the Thanksgiving service for him. And so the pastors have supported you. They stuck their neck out and supported you to win. If you have won, they are the same group that you find least deserving to find expression on the body constituted to advise you on key governance matters. Right. Council of State is such a high body constituted to advise the president. And so consistently for the past 25 years, there has been precedents, and there has been very worthy precedents where President Kufuor, for instance, appointed Reverend Professor Assin to the Council of State. Then Professor Mills came and appointed Reverend Dr. Ntim to Council of State. We had President Kufuor coming in to appoint Bishop Justice Akrofi to Council of State. Ask President Mahama, which among his 11 appointed Council of State members is part of the clergy? And so if you disrespect them in such a manner, they may not come out openly, you know, to say it. But just come through the messages they've been preaching the past 2 weeks, and you understand their pain. Just scan through. You can get your producers. Let them scan through the messages some of the key pastors have preached the past 2 weeks in their churches, in their sermons. They have expressed their pain. They have expressed the sense of betrayal and the disappointment they have felt and the disrespect President has shown to them. If you find them not worthy to advise you on Council of State, fine. But they have taken their decision. I am very, very sure that if that same decision was to be taken today, they would take it differently. But I'm very certain that Dr. Bawumia would never have turned his back on our clergymen. But one other issue that I'm so concerned about is the mass revocation of appointment. Lily, it's so sad. This is where we expect the organized labor to rise up to the occasion. The time they were striking for Galamsey, they were even striking over 30% pay rise. It was like they just wanted to strike over everything. But this is the most important matter. 23,000 of your people, same people who pay their dues to your unions, have been unfairly terminated and their appointment revoked and their source of livelihood removed. And you don't see the urgency to fight for them, to speak up for them. The appointment letters, I have brought a lot of documents here.
Okay.
The appointment letters I have received from across the nation, many of them, the appointment letters date way back as July 2024, some August 2024, some September 2024, October 2024.
Are you able to read the first paragraph of some of these?
They are from Assin Bank, NPRA, some are teachers, some are nurses, NEIP, many of them. And there are various
As for the NEIP, I think it's a peculiar challenge because a lot of them were not regularized. So there is a need to regularize these people.
So you regularize them, you don't terminate them. Someone has been in Assin Bank, for instance, as a regional manager, some as officers for 6 months, 5 months, 4 months. And then you come and terminate them. Teachers have been sent to the classroom. Some have taught for 4 months, 3 months, 2 months. They have gone to borrow money to pay their rent. They don't live in those communities they were posted to. They've gone to borrow money to pay 2 years advance. Some nurses had to go and borrow money to buy motorbikes to be able to access their stations where they are going to care for Ghanaians. And then suddenly, when you have promised a reset, you have promised to create jobs for the youth, you come and terminate, instead of creating more jobs, you come and rather terminate jobs. And so sad. This is the time that we're expecting organized labor to rise in solidarity with our people because they are Ghanaians. It doesn't matter which government employ them. At the end of the day, if they are nurses, they are catering to all kinds of people, regardless of their political affiliation. The village where they are teaching, there may well be the people among the 6.3 million who voted for you. And so they must suspend and rescind the decision to terminate them and reinstate them. Organized labor sat down, accepted 10% pay rise. And some of them, surprisingly, were even on radio stations and TV stations praising government and calling President Mahama so generous. And that the 10% they've been given, Mr. Asingame, for instance, described the 10% as excessive. Meanwhile, he was the same person who described the 30%.
Looking at our current economic dispensation.
How different is our economy from last year's economy? How different is this year's inflation from last year's inflation, which saw the increment of worker salary to 25%? Is it not the same? What has changed? And so if you describe 30% salary increase at a time, 30% salary increase in a year, that inflation was about 23.8%. And you call it inadequate, but you come to call 10% pay rise in a similar circumstances as excessive. That is double standard for me. And so this is the time that I think that the ordinary public worker in Ghana doesn't have a voice speaking for them.
The president was in the room
they
at
don't
the
have
time.
a voice speaking
Don't you
for
think
them.
that he convinced them enough?
With which words? The president was in the room, and with the greatest of respect for me, anyone that is president, there's a reason why they are called excellencies.
Right.
Whether you're from my party or you're not from my party, you are my president.
Right.
And so I have the greatest of respect for you. And there's a reason why presidents are called excellencies. Words coming out of their mouth ought to be seasoned with salt.
Right.
Here is a president who went into a labor negotiation room to denigrate his own country that he is serving, calling the country, describing the country as a crime scene. You can find every word unprintable to describe your predecessors, fine. But at least respect the sanctity of the country.
How else should the president describe
Well,
the country if there's crime indeed?
So how is Ghana a crime scene? How is Ghana? And this is a president who will be looking for, foreign direct investments to come into the country to support his 24-hour economy, to push funding. Who would want to put funding into a crime scene? Who wants to, put his hard-earned money investment into a country described as a crime scene?
He put it in context that the economy was criminally handled, owing to how the previous administration handled the economy of this country.
That's equally condemnable. I know very well. The president is a very great communicator.
Right.
He will play back that clip and he will shake his head, I could have said better. I am telling you. I'm sure anytime they play back that video to him, he will look at it and say, no, I'm never going to say these words again. Because you're president. Even a member of parliament is so it would be unparliamentary for them to say that. It would be deemed as a parliamentary loose talk. And so this one's a presidential loose talk. Because as an excellency, your words have to be that level. So regardless, whatever words you would want to find to describe how a nation was managed, this same economy that you say is criminally managed is the economy that bequeathed to you $9 billion in gross international reserve. You left only $6.2 billion. Would we describe yours as criminally managed? This is the country that bequeathed to you over $3.4 billion surplus in trade. And you left a legacy of deficit of $1.8 billion. So which economy? You left economy with a growth rate around the time COVID had not even come, around 3.2. And this is an economy that was bequeathed to you third quarter of 2024, growth rate of 7.2. So which economy was criminally mismanaged or handled? You came in, and if you're so concerned about crimes, financial crimes in the country, and you were going to fight it, the first thing you did was to free of about 12 high-profile cases of financial crimes, of financial malfeasance, misappropriation, and embezzlement to tunes of billions, hundreds of billions of cedis and dollars. The first thing you did was to clear them.
Your government
and
had
you do
about
not describe that as criminally
these
mismanaged.
People. Your government had 8 years to convict these people.
The wheels of justice grind slowly. And you cannot, political class cannot interfere in the speed at which judiciary does their work. If you have any qualms about the speed at which the judiciary is doing their work and it is justified, he may say it. But for you to say that because maybe 6 years you were not fully able to finish prosecuting
insufficient evidence. One of the things that the Attorney General
where does it say that after 5 years, if you are not successful at completing prosecution, drop the case, clear them? Where does it state? And so you want to clear your alleged, because these people have not been convicted. So we don't know whether they are innocent or guilty, but you have cleared your alleged financial crimes and high-profile financial criminals, allegedly, you have cleared them. But you have words to describe a whole regime as crime scene, a whole country as crime scene, and a regime as criminally managed. That is fair enough. But it is important that organized labor stand in solidarity with over 23,000 people who have been unfairly terminated. And we are urging and appealing to President Mahama that create new jobs. Don't come and revoke jobs that were created by your predecessor.
Some say that, well, we cannot sympathize with the NPP because it was done under your era.
It wasn't done. Let me prove to you. And I say so. In 2017, you remember, around January 7th, and I'll send that tweet to you. President Mahama tweeted, justifying why there's nothing wrong with employing people, recruiting people, appointing people during transition period in January, even 2 days to handing over. The now Minister of State and Government spokesperson, my good friend Felix Fusukwache, had a media engagement very clearly, and it's very common on every platform, justified there's nothing wrong that until the president hands over, even January 6th, he has every power and authority to recruit, and there's nothing wrong with that. They justify their last-minute recruitment. So even if some recruitment had been done or appointment had been done within transition period, by that same principle, what is wrong with it and what has changed? But my major concern even rests with people who were clearly recruited. You know, thousands of people who were recruited 4 months before election, 3 months before election, a month before election, and then you come and revoke all of them. It is most irresponsible. Lily, this act that the government has done, if they don't reverse it, that is what is going to set them on the path, very fine path, high speed towards opposition. And they will go to opposition very fast, because when you touch the livelihoods of people, they have friends, they have families. Some of them may very well be among your 6.3.
That will inure to your own advantage, isn't it?
But we don't want to gloat over the misfortune of our fellow Ghanaians, that our fellow Ghanaians must suffer so that I'll become my party will be in power again. Do the right things. At least, at the end of the period, let the good people judge. So I wouldn't say that because I'll benefit or my party will benefit out as a result of these unpopular decisions, very inhumane decisions and very cruel decisions, I should sit and not talk.
Since you talk about party, let's look at your party's massive defeat and the posturing of your party going forward. What should be the posturing of your party going forward after this defeat?
Yes, we accept the defeat. We accept it as massive. This is not the first time that a party in power has lost this massive. As a matter of record, we even had a certain president who had served 4 years as president, President Mahama, went into an election and had an unprecedented defeat. Until that defeat, there has never been a certain president in Ghana losing as high as over 1 million votes. But this same president went to opposition for whatever number of years, and at another time, the same people of Ghana thought that he should come back to become president. And so, yes, MPP we have lost, but we are taking introspection, deep reflections, where we could have done things better, reorganizing, and we'll come back stronger. 4 years is just around the corner. And so it's not sort of a major issue, but we recognize that, yes, if we've got this massive defeat, only 88 seats in Parliament, and the number of the presidential votes we obtained and all that, let us take deep introspection, be very humble enough to admit where we went wrong, where we could have done better, so that when the opportunity comes back, we can serve better.
Well, one of the admissions, I know it's early days yet, will one of the admissions be that you are not a listening government?
Well, we hope to see what the reports, the Professor Michael Quake Election Review Committee report. I'm sure there will be a lot of key issues that will come up, and then when they come up, we will address them with the sincerity it deserves.
Even before this report comes out, let's look at the candidature of Dr. Bawumia. Some people say he should come back, others say he shouldn't come back. Should Dr. Bawumia lead the party in 2028?
Yes.
Are you supporting his candidature?
Oh, yes. He will be a very fine president, and he embodies a lot of humility, a lot of vision, and given the history of various presidents from both NDC, most of them had to go 3 times, some even 2 times. We've even had a certain president who lost and had to come back, run, he lost again, he even lost the second time, and then eventually he won. So there's absolute wisdom in giving Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia another chance to lead the party.
You are one of the, I think you're the only member of parliament who survived in the Assin Enclave, right?
Very much so.
And Kennedy GHOne is also eyeing the top job of the NPP. That's the flag bearership.
Yes.
What kind of contest do you anticipate between Kennedy GHOne and Dr. Bawumia?
It's not going to be a very easy contest. But I urge all candidates to be very responsible, to be very circumspect, and to be very sensitive to the fortunes of the party. Because the party first. You are seeking to run on the ticket of the party. And so it is important that they all are restrained, they sell their vision, they hold their supporters to be very circumspect so that they may not veer into excesses in engaging in certain utterances that may be inimical to our fortunes. Because whoever wins, all of us will have to support the person. And so it shouldn't be made difficult for the selling of the candidates or even for the prosecution of the campaign to be difficult because of certain utterances or actions or acrimonies that may. But I anticipate that there'll be very fair and transparent contest, but it's not going to be a very easy one.
Easy one. You say you support the candidature of Dr. Bawumia.
I have said that Dr. Bawumia, when given the chance to lead a party again, there will be absolute wisdom in that. And we have very fine chances of winning 2028.
Okay, so then if Dr. Bawumia becomes your flag bearer again, in the just ended elections, you lost massively in the central region. Don't you think that will repeat itself?
There are many.
Looking at the dynamics, if Kennedy GHOne does not win the flag bearership.
There are many. You are very much interested in Kennedy GHOne, Dr. Bawumia politics. It's very early days yet. But I am saying that whoever, the colleague, I have expressed my opinion, whoever delegates will bring, will support, will rally support behind them, whatever we have to do to win regions by region, given a cognizant of the various regional dynamics, we will have to engage in it and ensure that we win as many seats as possible and as many presidential votes as possible to get back into government.
The president will deliver the State of the Nation address this week. What are your expectations?
My expectations are that he will come to announce the reversing, the reversing or rescinding the decision of the mass revocation. I'm expecting him to say that how certain heads of agencies took the liberty to terminate unfairly people's appointment. It was done at his blind side. He doesn't support it. And it's, in all fairness, he's directing that all of them be duly reinstated and that to also state his clear plans and path to create more jobs, more jobs for the people of this, the youth of this country. We're also expecting him to stay clear his vision on Agenda 111. I've heard him make some comments somewhere, but we're expecting him to state his clear direction as to the future of Agenda 111. Is he committed to complete them? And
he has stated yesterday. He mentioned that he's committed to completing them. He says we need $1.7 billion.
Yeah, yesterday the statement that he made suggests that he's not committed to completing. He was lamenting here and there. And so that is a statement made outside Parliament. We want to hear him go into the records of Hansa, State of the Nation, his plan. This is going to be his maiden State of the Nation address. We want to see him, we want to hear him clear on his stance and commitment on completing projects he has come to inherit. We also want to hear him clear on the future of free SHS and how all the promises he made in the education sector are going to be delivered. We also expect for him to state clear leadership, how he's going to ensure that, Alteza Travel Organization and many other organizations have ranked Ghana as the second safest country in Africa, and globally even ranked Ghana ahead of Australia and Canada in terms of how our crimes rates have reduced. We want to see him the kind of safe and secured economy we have bequeathed to him, what leadership he would state to ensure that insecurity, does not become the order of the day, and our citizens are protected and crime rates be on the trajectory of declining, and that we don't lose our enviable place as the first in second in Africa, one of the best on the continent. So safety is very important. Jobs, education, these are some. And one key thing, I also expect him to state his support for the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill. Today we are presenting it. I have a copy here. We are submitting it today in Parliament.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a copy of it. This is a bill that President Akufo-Addo, President Mahama himself, you know, was so excited to sign during his campaign. He said that
is this another private member's bill, or is the previous? Is the same one?
It's the same private member's bill, but because it died with the 8th Parliament, we have to reintroduce it.
Okay.
And I have my colleagues fully on board. So far, I've not had any indication that any of them want to opt out. The same colleagues we started with, Honorable Sam George, Honorable Bedra, Honorable Helen Tonso, Honorable, all of them. We even have some new ones who have also joined. Honorable Nana Bafo, J, Honorable Eko Sifwa, Honorable Hassan Tampuli, Honorable Abubakar Abdul Kabiru, Mahamatia, and a number of them who have joined. This morning, we will all submit. I'm not sure that any of them will turn their back. The Speaker of Parliament has been very, very supportive from day one of the introduction of this bill, and we are hopeful that he will maintain the same support so that we haven't changed anything. The same bill that was tested at the Supreme Court and and won is the same bill we are reintroducing.
But why not allow the state take it up?
Why should the state take it up?
Is it that you don't have confidence that the state will act?
Parliament is an independent institution.
Okay.
And there's a reason why private members' bill is allowed for in our constitution and standing orders. And so we are going to submit this just as we started, consistent with that principle. If the government wants to enhance it after we have introduced it, and they think that there are even some very essential things so important to the people, and he wants to add it, he can get on board. This is the bill President Mahama said that he will sign, he will assent to it on any day. If he has one power, it is not expected that he will take a U-turn to say it should be introduced in a different way.
It will be a state-sponsored.
No, but that flies in the face of integrity. You must be consistent with your principle. We will introduce it. If he has any qualms with it, and if he has any problem with it,
all the other people,
when it is passed, we will hear his comment. But this, may I remind viewers and all of us, that this is the same bill that in 2021, the CDD conducted their Afro-Barometer survey, indicated that 93% of the population of this country are fully in support of this, including 93% of the 6.3 million voters who voted for President Mahama. So if he would have a contrary position now that he is president, the same 93% of the population who find this bill so essential and important will show him their reaction come 2028 and show his party their reaction come 2028.
I have to wrap up, but let me ask you, you raised a question on the floor of Parliament about the mass deportation of Ghanaians from the United States. What are your concerns?
Yeah, one of the major concerns is that oftentimes when people are deported to third world countries, we hear all kinds of stories. Some are in shackles, some are, you know, in very undignified ways. And so we are saying that Minister for Foreign Affairs, I have said with him on the Foreign Affairs Committee for about 8 years. So we are urging him. This is the time for him to step up. This is a time for him to heighten engagement with his counterparts in the United States. This is the time for him to give direction or directives to the mission in the United States to offer extensive consular services to our Ghanaians. Some of them, all they need is access to an immigration lawyer, and their cases will be enhanced and may not have to be deported. And some of them, all they need is to renew their passports and take proper decisions on their future, whether they will come back or stay. And for those who are going to be separated from families, children are separated from mothers, husbands are separated from wives, and never having any hope of reuniting. They need to be involved in all of this, so that they will be, if they have to be deported, they will be deported without infringing upon their fundamental human rights, and that they will come in as citizens. They should be ready to receive them and reintegrate them into society.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
I'm so grateful, Lily, for the time.
You're welcome. That's Reverend GHOne Ntim Fordjour, the Member of Parliament for Assin South, the former Deputy Minister for Education here on Heart Talk. That's it for the show. My name is Lily Mohammed.